This is the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once upon a time, there were three bears who lived in the woods together. One of them was a small little wee bear. One of them was a medium-sized bear. And one of them was a great big giant bear. Each of the bears had their own bowl of porridge. Porridge is like cereal. There was a wee little small bowl for the wee little bear. There was a medium-sized bowl for the medium-sized bear. And there was a great big bowl for the great big bear. Each of the bears also had their own little chair. There was a wee little chair for the wee little bear. There was a medium-sized chair for the medium-sized bear. And there was a great big chair for the great big bear. Each of the bears also had their own bed. There was a wee little bed for the wee little bear. There was a medium-sized bed for the medium-sized bear. And there was a great big bed for the great big bear. One day, after the bears made their breakfast, they went outside for a walk to allow time for their porridge to cool down. While the bears were walking in the woods that day, a girl named Goldilocks came around their house. She was called Goldilocks because of her beautiful golden hair. When she came to the house, she peeked in the window to see if anybody was home. And when she didn't see anybody, she lifted up the latch and she walked in the door. When Goldilocks went in the house, she saw and could smell the delicious porridge that was sitting on the table in the kitchen. So she went over to the porridge and decided to help herself. She went up to the great big bowl of porridge for the great big bear, and she tasted it, but it was too hot. Then she went up to the medium-sized bowl that was for the medium-sized bear, and she tasted it, but it was too cold. Then she went up to the wee-sized bowl that was for the wee-sized little bear, and she tasted it, and it was just right. So she ate it all up. Goldilocks went into the living room, and she saw the 3 chairs, and she thought she might have a sit for a little while. So she sat in the big giant chair of the great big giant bear, but it was too hard. Then she sat on the medium-sized chair of the medium-sized bear, and it was too soft. And then she sat on the wee little chair for the wee little bear, and she sat down in it, and it broke. Then Goldilocks went upstairs, all the way up into the bedroom, and she saw 3 beds. The first bed she saw was the great big bed for the great big bear. She laid down in it, but it was too hard. Then she sat and laid down in the medium-sized bed that belonged to the medium-sized bear, and she sat in it, but it was too soft. And then she sat and laid down in the wee little bed for the wee little bear, and it was just right. And she fell asleep. About this time, the 3 bears decided that it was probably time to go back to their house, that maybe their porridge was cool enough to eat. So they walked right back to their house. They went inside, and they went over to the kitchen table, and they saw their porridge. And the great big bear noticed that somebody had moved his spoon a little bit, and he said, "Somebody's been eating my porridge." And the medium-sized bear looked at her bowl of porridge and noticed that somebody had touched it too, and said, "Somebody's been eating my porridge." And the wee little bear, in his wee little voice, said, "Somebody has been eating my porridge." And they ate it all up. The 3 bears decided to go into the living room. And when they got there, the great big bear saw that somebody had ruffled his chair a little bit. And he said in his big gruff voice, "Somebody has been sitting in my chair." And the medium-sized bear, in her medium-sized voice, said, "Somebody has been sitting in my chair." And the little wee bear, in his little wee voice, said, "Somebody has been sitting in my chair." And they broke it. The 3 bears now decided it was time to investigate more. So they walked up the steps, all the way up to the bedroom. And when they got there, the big, giant, huge bear saw that somebody had been sleeping in his bed, and said in his big gruff voice, "Somebody has been sleeping in my bed." And the medium-sized bear looked at her medium-sized bed and said in her medium-sized voice, "Somebody has been sleeping in my bed." And the wee little bear, in his wee little voice, looked at his bed and said, "Somebody has been sleeping in my bed too." And there she is. When Goldilocks had heard the great big bear's voice and the medium-sized bear's voice, she just kept sleeping. But when she heard the little wee bear's voice, it sounded so much like her own that she woke up. When she saw the bears, she couldn't believe it. And she just ran as fast as she could out the door. Far, far away. And the three bears never saw her again. Whatever happened to Goldilocks, we'll never know. But that is the story of Goldilocks and the three bears.